This is where business ideas and passions turn into profit. Whether you're dreaming of becoming your own boss, but don't know how to get started, or have already started a side hustle and wish to grow it exponentially, your host, Victoria Wieck, can help you turn your passion-based business ideas into profit. Welcome to Million Dollar Passion. Here is your host, world-renowned jewelry designer and home shopping TV celebrity, Victoria Wieck.
Welcome to another episode of the Million Dollar Hobbies Passions podcast. I got to tell you that we talked about the terminology, personal branding, how important it is that you become likable, you become a part of your brand, and that how that brand has to be sort of exemplified in everything that you do, starting from your heart, everything you do. I want to say it's a topic we never stop thinking about. We can always grow into this. And I have an amazing guest today. Her name is Mary Henderson, and she's been doing this for quite a while, since I want to say more than 10 years, like tens of thousands of hours she has personally put into finding her own unique way of helping you build your personal brand. So without further ado, I want to welcome Mary. Mary, welcome to the show.
Hi, Victoria. Thank you for having me.
So what time is it in Melbourne? Is it like
7:30 a.m. in the morning?
I'm going to say it's pretty early in the morning. I was going to say, I didn't mean to be selfish about booking a time at that time, but I myself working pretty early, as well.
Perfect.
So maybe you actually have a background that's very similar to a lot of our listeners, which is especially, female entrepreneurs. We don't like wake up one morning and say, I was born to be a female entrepreneur. I mean, I'm sure there are some people like that. But in your case, you grew up and then you did all the things that most people do, go get a job, you climb the corporate ladder, you do all those things. And then your kids come. Then, that the whole wake up moment happens, right? That happened to me. Like I was thinking, I think after my first child was born, I was thinking to myself, I can't sustain this life. I can't be giving, 150% of my life, my time, my effort to my job, my boss, my clients, and then come home exhausted, while somebody, a nanny or someone else is taking care of my children. And then what's the purpose of my life here? So, I went through that whole, epiphany at one point, and that's how I got into entrepreneurship space. And I know you did too, but you then went ahead and started your own company. Then you sold it and you started doing something else. So I'm pretty sure I'm going to screw this thing up. So can you tell us a little bit about what happened, a quick bio, an overview of what event shaped your life, and then, how that led to what you're doing now?
So in 2000, I was sort of climbing at the height of my corporate career. And I was in the IT sector, which I loved. And on the first day of this new job, my boss, she said, you've got good news, I've got good news, and I've got bad news. The good news is you've got this amazing opportunity. The bad news is you've got 12 weeks to fix the problem. And I'm thinking to myself, I wish they could have told me that in the interview, but I'm up for a challenge.
They all lie.
That's it. Of course. And so Victoria, I go to this interview and I had the interview. I had my very first meeting with the client, and there's a whole room of people that I had met that I was there to meet. But the person who was really meant to be there, the decision maker, she didn't show up to the meeting. So the meeting was more or less null and void, because they had already decided as an organization that they were going to move our business from our company. So this is a declining $8 million business per year at this point. And so as I leave this meeting and I'm heading into the lift, there was this woman in the lift. I'm wearing my red snakeskin boots, as you do. And I could just feel the daggers in the back of my back, this person checking me out up and down. And she turns around and she says, I have to have those red boots. And I looked at her, and just intuitively, I knew it was the person that was supposed to be in that meeting that didn't show up. So I turned around and I said, is your name such and such? She said, yes. I said, you were supposed to be in my meeting, but you didn't show up. And she said, well, that's because we're pulling all of our business away from you. No one in your company has been able to solve this problem and we're done. So I said, are you going downstairs to have lunch? She said, yes. I said, please let me buy you a coffee. And because I said, maybe other people haven't been able to solve the problem, but I truly believe I can. I had no idea what I was saying, by the way. So anyway, we sit down for literally 5 minutes and she just looked at me. She goes, just tell me what you want. And I said, I just want you to give me 12 weeks with your operations team. I need to understand your system. Once I understand the system, I can solve the problem. And she said, okay, I'll give you 12 weeks. You can come and sit here for 12 weeks, figure out what the problem is. On the 12th week, if the problem's not solved, you guys are out. I said, I promise you I will solve it. But I'm sharing that story because that was a sliding door moment for me. That moment when I left that meeting and as I was crossing the road, I still remember it black and white till this day. I paused for a moment and I said to myself, I'm either going to screw this up or I'm going to build a brand around Mary. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to command my own demand in the industry and be the person that every IT company wants. But I have an opportunity of a lifetime to fix this complex problem. To cut a long story short, I solved the problem. I built that business from 8 million to 22 million in 18 months with double-digit margins in IT that's unheard of. And then I started getting job offers from all other vendors, not just in Australia, but internationally. And the next job I was offered was an American company. I was there for 4 years. I built that business from 4 million to 54 million in 48 months. I had a massive sales team. And it was in that moment that I realized I've got an opportunity here to turn these people, these salespeople, into brands, or I can leave them as job descriptions. And that's what everyone else does. But I was there on a mission. I knew how to build brands because I built my own. I knew that it was a different approach, if you will, to just showing up as a job description. So that happened. And then in 2005, I decided to leave the corporate sector. I was traveling a lot and my body was just done. So I started my own business, which was a web-based software company. I could see that there was a major opportunity and a niche in the academic sector. So I went after that niche. We built software for that sector. And then in 2011, my second son was born. And that was the moment where my whole life collapsed, where I had this child 3 hours after. I just had the most incredible epiphany, and my business card fell out from my purse as I was reaching out to get some lip balm, and I just picked up this business card, Victoria, and I'm thinking, my whole life has been a label. Like everything about me has been a label. Mother, daughter, boss, MD, this, that. It's just been a label. And I knew in that moment that I would resign from my own company. I resigned from a company that I had built from ground up, that I had for 7 years, turning over 7 figures per year. And in January of 2012, thankfully, I merged that business with a design agency. And I took a 12-month sabbatical to find out, what am I going to do for the rest of my life? And in that 12-month process, I had 2 incredible mentors, one in particular who was a professor in philosophy, who would be the person that would change the trajectory of my life and make me understand that, whoa, in that 12-month period, I unpacked Mary, my knowledge, my wisdom, my skills, my gifts, my talents, and made sense of it all. Now, coming from a tech background and loving systems and Excel spreadsheets, as I was unpacking this version of Mary that I didn't think had any currency, suddenly I could see passions, and suddenly I could see that I could solve some complex problems. And if I could merge those two together and design a system, I can go out into the world and serve people who I believe I can help. And that's where I'm at today.
Wow, that's a lot of information. Let me dive right into the brand. You mentioned the word, Mary as a brand, and I agree with you. Without a personal brand, small entrepreneur space, it's really tough to make it. You can have a business where you can make more money, more revenues than costs, but you're never going to really build a scalable business unless you have a brand. Either the business is a brand or you're a brand, or hopefully they actually align with one another. So in your opinion, what are some of the key essential factors that makes a brand?
I think the first thing we need to look at is at the center of personal branding is you, the business. So it's the human being. And we need to understand what that you looks like in its authentic state of being. And to do that, we really need to understand some fundamental attributes. We need to understand what is the identity of that natural state of being. What does it look like? What does it sound like? How do we want the outside world to perceive that person? We need to understand our core values. We need to understand what our core story is. And because all of those attributes, Victoria, they convert to us being believable and trustable. And that's ultimately what we're looking for. The other element is, what problem can I solve? What that makes me believable and trustable. What I see a lot of people doing is going and chasing a niche or chasing an industry because they've been told to do that. But that's the worst case scenario because it's only a short-lived experience. When you can solve a problem based on your knowledge, your wisdom, and your skill set, there's a currency right there. That is another form of currency outside of dollars in your bank. And we've never been taught to view our professional and our personal experience in the form of currency. But think about it. It never depreciates. It's always with you. Whereas dollars depreciates and you could lose it. And so we need to give that currency a whole new meaning. And the other part of your brand is, who are we talking to? Understanding the target audience is fundamental to our success. So these three critical pillars, if you will, are the core to developing an unstoppable and a memorable brand.
Yeah, I have to disagree with you on one thing, which is dollars depreciate. And I say that a lot of small entrepreneurs, if you're not careful, you can depreciate your personal branding as well. If you do things that are contrary to your stated core values, your stated mission,
yes,
that actually will, one of the things that I see a lot with small entrepreneurs is that they get it. They get what you're saying, all 3 points that you made.
Yeah.
But, the whole goal, the end goal is that if people only buy your services, whatever that you have to offer, if they trust you and they respect you, right? And so we want to, attain some level of respect and some level of, trustworthiness, from digital space. Like when they come to your website, they haven't met you in person, they don't know you, and they're making judgments, just by a few clicks that they're making. So a lot of entrepreneurs, they will try to look bigger than they are. They'll try to look more professional than they are. They'll try to do all these things on their website that doesn't really jive with who they really are. Because, if I meet you in person, I might go, that Mary is so smart and she's so professional and she's so on top of it. And yet she's so down to earth. And, she's a mother of 2 kids. And, I really get her story and I want to give her a try. But a lot of times, I'm not saying you particularly, but a lot of times you go to Mary's website and they might go, I want, they don't know you. And, all that, the juicy part of you that actually makes you trustworthy is kind of omitted. And I think there's a lot of space out there for somebody to kind of cash in on that, on teaching small entrepreneurs how they can, their whole authentic selves, including their vulnerabilities, are all translated into everything they do in a digital space.
Yeah, well, this is why consistency and congruency is critical. So I would never work with an individual that hasn't accumulated at least 10,000 hours in their specialization, because so many people are chasing fame. This is actually the biggest problem. And a lot of those people come to me. They're the people that want to be famous for being famous.
Instantaneously, right? Instantaneously.
And I can't work with those people, Victoria, because the people that I work with, typically, you know, they're already running a bricks and mortar business. They've got PhDs, they've got masters, they've been in corporate. So these are people that have got a lot of information stored as a currency inside of them. Now, that currency needs to be organized, you know, so that, but not just organized in the problem that they can solve, but also in how they want the outside world to perceive them. So if I'm coming on this podcast interview and you're asking me a question on personal branding, I've come face to face with personal branding for 22 years. I've just now converted what I started to know, what has now become my vocation, into an actual system. But that's lots and lots of years of trial and tribulation, lots of practice, lots of people I've tried it on, etc. So the congruency and the consistency is what creates the believability factor and the trustability factor, but also the authenticity, because I don't want to be anyone else. I just want to be myself, including my vulnerabilities, including the knowledge and the skill set that I want to share with people. But the other thing is, and I think the most important thing out of all of this, the ones that are genuinely creating their brand essence are the ones also that have the capacity to also create ecstatic brand experiences for paying clients and for prospects. And this is, for me, the biggest gap that I see in a lot of people who are going down this path of, you know, creating supposedly a personal brand, but really what they're doing is, I want to be famous. And there's a very, very clear line between those and the ones that genuinely are wanting to package all of their genius because they know they can solve a complex problem. They know that they can serve an audience. And quite frankly, they're on a mission to solve a problem for that target audience. It's a very different mindset.
Oh, I agree with you. I mean, it's really interesting because I think a lot of coaches out there have never really run the business, run a business. I mean, like you said, when you are about to lose a customer, or, when you're building, something for a client, and sometimes they work great. Like, you go from $5 million to $54 million in, so many months. And then there's others that you don't do all that well, but there is a learning experience with every one of those, right? What went right, some of even the ones that went right, even the ones that, you do the 5 million to 50 million, and you're thinking, geez, if I could have only done this one thing, that could have been a $500 million business. Yes. Or sometimes you could be going, geez, like, I don't know. I just think that coaches was never really coached, but they learned all the buzzwords. They learned all the how to teach. They just don't have that authenticity or the core DNA, or they can't, so a lot of times when you work with small entrepreneurs, and we were a little bit joking off the record a little bit ago, that so many people that are just great, down heart, amazing people that are out there serving, their clients, that are adding value to their clients. They're so busy, exhausted from like working so many hours, they don't even really realize what they really need, to really digitize and monetize their businesses. But also, they just really enjoy doing what they're doing. Every day is like a school day. And so for someone like yourself, who really can look at someone, a client comes to you and you can look at them and you can look at how they talk, what their desires are, who their target audience is, whether or not their mission is aligned with what they're doing. And also if they truly have the desire to build a true personal brand, not the fame. You don't have to have fame in the end, personal branding. I mean, I actually have a personal brand. I've sold over 10 million pieces of jewelry just here in America. And, you go outside of US, even in the US, I'm not like a mainstream everyday celebrity, but within my audience, my name is like the most Googled name in the jewelry industry. So I think that, building a personal brand that turns into currency that you can trade, and also true currency that you can actually make money off of. It takes time, it takes knowledge, it takes hard work. And
I agree.
Mary has got, by the way, if you want to just kind of like dip your toes into this, Mary has a free program. She's Mary Henderson Coaching, Mary HendersonCoaching.com/apply. And then she can just kind of, quickly diagnose you. And I think that's an amazing service, by the way, for, anybody who it's free, and you get the expertise of somebody who has been through a lot of clients like yourself, who are lost, or who you may actually even be sitting on some amazing wisdom, knowledge, skills, and experience that could be packaged and, into a coaching program. I do a lot of speeches, and I do a lot of pro bono work. And I work with a lot of people that are literally sitting on just amazing gold mine of experiences that should be, monetized.
Absolutely. That's a lot of people are in that position, which is incredible.
So, Mary, let me ask you, what do you think if you were to give a younger you, Mary Henderson of 15 years ago, some advice on how you should go about charting your future? Just a couple of nuggets. What would that be?
I think knowing what I know now, Victoria, I'm quite a deep person, so I spend a lot of time really in reflection, stepping into the shadow of, my vulnerabilities and things that, we unfortunately all download as children, belief systems that were never ours to begin with. I think that for me, doing that work, whilst it's quite confronting and it's difficult to make sense of your past, you have to go there in order to see the other side of the coin. Everything has a duality. But for me, what I've come to realize is the embodiment of every aspect of who I am. Wow. And it's not just the good and the bad and the ugly. It's also the pain, the disappointments, the sadness, the trauma. All of that needs to be embodied. And I've enjoyed that process because it's in that space where I have found possibilities, ideas, creativities, and also found the true person of who I am. So knowing what I know now, I would go back to my younger self and say, it's going to be okay. Just trust the process. And that's the other thing. That's a very important word for me, trusting that process, having a very a deep relationship with my spirituality and what that means to me. That whole trust process has been a very, very, very big part of my journey. And also, I think when you go through that process of, yes, you've learned knowledge, yes, you've learned skills, yes, you've all turned into wisdom, but then there's the underlying, what lies beneath the surface of the skin, our 70 trillion cells that are carrying memories that are converting into our behavior, and our state of being. That's where I want to go. I want to give all of that a whole new meaning. And whilst it's been difficult, it's been an amazing journey because, as I said, I've been able to embody all of the aspects that make up Mary and become the best version of myself, which is how I feel right now.
I think what you just said is so profound. I think a lot of, especially here in America, success in America, if you ask, our children, like teenage kids now, to define the word success, there's going to be some form of money or fame or both in there. And what you're saying is there's just so much more. I mean, each of us have different journeys. But I think what you actually just, if I can sum it up, what I heard was that, you took a year off and to really reflect upon yourself, look at how do I live a happy, purposeful life?
Yes.
So when you do that and you teach that in your coaching programs, you're going to get, there's some coaches that'll tell you, I can turn your business from 2 million to 3 million tomorrow morning. Okay, you can do that, but then at what cost, right? I mean, are you going to stop seeing your family? Are you going to, stop being a parent? I mean, you're going to be turning into a psycho that nobody understands. I mean, I'm just taking that as an extreme, but that's different than somebody, someone like you, Mary, sitting down with someone and saying, okay, so how do you envision your life 5 years from now? How do you want to live your life? If you want to live your life where you're spending 50% of your time with your family, and you want to monetize your business, this is how you're going to get there. So basically understanding that the needs, a total need, not just the monetary, not just the business aspect.
Absolutely.
Business, but because, we all want to be successful in business so that we could be free to spend time the way we want to spend it, right? So I just think that a lot of times people are chasing the things that do not lead to purposeful life. But I think a lot of times, Mary, don't get me wrong, some people don't know, have never taken the time to reflect on it and say, what's the purpose of my life here?
You're absolutely right. And I think also, Victoria, it's a work in progress. Where I was in 2012, fast forward 10 years later, I'm still a work in progress. And I've embraced that because I don't think we ever stop learning. The other thing is that for me, a very important word is order, because I need order in my life. I think that we don't understand the power of just being still and making sure that our household, our business, the relationships, the clients that we have, when I have order in my life, I'm attracting order as well. And just going back to the idea of success, I see a lot of people, as you say, define success as dollars in the bank account. So they're chasing something outside. They're chasing this thing called dollars. For me, making money is the effect of my cause. I've completely flipped it. I don't see, that, I wake up in the morning and I'm like, okay, today I'm going to manifest $100,000. I don't do that. I'm, as I said, I'm very systemized, very ordered. I am in a position where I can choose who I want to work with. And the reason I do that is because, again, I'm very passionate and very clear on who I want as part of my tribe. I don't want toxicity. I don't want craziness. I want to be able to work with people that I can show up, that I'm all in, I'm showing up 100% of the time. And the flip side and the positive side of that is that I'm available, Victoria. And that's very important to me in my business, because if I'm available and my clients can trust me from the bottom of their heart, not only do they become my brand advocates, which converts into referral business, but also that's the brand that I want to be known for. I don't want to be known as a quick fix brand, somebody that makes false promises. I want to be the brand that people say, I trust her. Anything I need, she's there for me, blah, blah, blah. I mean, this morning I woke up, I just had a weird sleep and I just reached out to get my phone, and one of my clients messaged me and said, I really need to just, run something by you. She's in a bit of a, she's got some issues. And I'm like, of course. I didn't wake up there and then, but, I said, look, let me wake up in the morning. I'll send you some times. It's a done deal. You have to be, if you want to build a brand around being memorable and creating a brand signature, we have to understand right from the outset, what does that actually look like? Because the effect of a brilliant brand is the opportunities, the dollars, the abundance that follows that. And I think a lot of people have flipped it. They've got it the wrong way around. Even in my methodology, we start with personal branding, but the effect is a lead generation strategy. The dollars is the last thing, because it's easy. It's easy to make money when you have the system in place.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I think you and I have a lot of things in common, because I've been mentors in a lot of different programs for both of the schools that I've gone to, UCLA and USC. And I do a lot of mentoring programs for women's networking, small businesses. And I'll tell you, if somebody does not believe that your personal brand, how you serve others, because that's the only way you're going to make money, if they don't believe in it and they just want to chase the dollars,
yes,
that person you cannot ever convert until
correct.
They can actually, they change their thinking paradigm, right?
So
anyway, this has been such a delightful conversation. And I agree with so many things, because I built my brand also, with no money. And all I had to sell was myself, my brand, which I didn't even know I was building a brand, but really working my rear end off and always being the first person to offer a solution and never criticizing anybody else, like I don't even have time for that. So, I ended up building a brand over 35 years, but I would just say that I'm just glad that you came on this show and explained how building a brand is not something you can teach somebody overnight. It's not fancy advertising that you're going to spend on Facebook. I mean, it just takes a lot of work, understanding yourself and how you can easily then align yourself with your target audience who understands you. Because like you said, it's a journey. I mean, I think,
yes.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I personally think that journey itself of discovering the solutions, discovering who you are, discovering what works, discovering what didn't work. I think that's the most beautiful part of what we do. And I hope that I never have to get off this journey. So
exactly. Well, that's what I say to people. You're either the tortoise or the hare in the race. I want to be the tortoise. I want to just stop, absorb, listen, smell the roses, then move along. That's what the journey is about. It's all about the good, the bad, and the ugly. And we have to stop thinking that we just got to get to the destination as soon as possible, because then you just miss all the teachings and the wisdom. And I think that's what I crave.
Now, listen, ladies and gentlemen who are listening here, I know I've got a very loyal audience, listening to every word of my guests. If you're working at some company right now, you have yet to become an entrepreneur, but you always think I should, and you're running around with 50 ideas around around just every time you have a bad meeting or a bad day, or you lose a client, you're thinking I should have. Think about it this way. Sometimes the safest thing, what you think is the safest thing, is the riskiest thing. Because, there's nothing worse than at age 55, you get laid off because no one's going to want to hire you. I mean, there's definitely age discrimination for sure. I don't know about the rate. Sure. I'm sure there's other discriminations of everything.
For sure.
Age discrimination is real. Okay. I know it seems to be an epidemic. I know so many people who are in their 50s getting laid off, downsized, being moved, all this stuff. Yeah. So when that happens, I'd hate to see you all of a sudden freak out and panic. If you work for somebody as a vice president, senior vice president, CFO, or, head of sales for some company, believe me, you're right now sitting on thousands, 10, 20, 30, 50,000 hours of knowledge, wisdom, the compassion, the know-how. Trust me, I know this for a fact. So all you need, you may think, oh my God, but no one's going to pay for it. You know what? Let me tell you something. You probably can package, systemize, digitize what you know, and you can, even as a side hustle, you could generate some sort of income from what you know, because what you know is authentic. What you're sharing is authentic, real knowledge. It's not some textbook theory, right? It's real knowledge.
Correct. And that's the key. Yes.
Turns into the transformation of somebody else who can benefit from what you've gone through. Especially, you got a lot of young millennials who are, 35 years old starting a business. Can you imagine if you're 50 years old and you've gone through all of that process already, and you're being reasonable about that? I would just say, check out Mary's MaryHendersonCoaching.com and check out what she has to offer. And I wish you, all the best. Now, Mary, how do people get a hold of you other than the MaryHendersonCoaching.com? Is there?
Yes. Feel free to email me, Mary at MaryHendersonCoaching.com. You can connect with me on Facebook, which is Mary Henderson Coaching. You can also connect with me on LinkedIn, Mary Henderson Coaching, with a pink circle around my face. And of course, my website, MaryHendersonCoaching.com.
Yeah, and all of those will be in my show notes when this episode gets published. And thank you for coming on my show and sharing your knowledge, expertise, and your heart, most of all. And for you, the audience, thank you again for listening to this week's episode. And if you haven't shared the episodes already, please go ahead and share it with your best friends, because that's how you can amplify. You can be a force multiplier. And until next time, please stay happy and healthy. And remember, happiness is your choice. And I hope you make great choices this coming week.
You've been listening to $1 Million Passion, where we turn dreams into reality and passion into profit. According to ancient Chinese proverb, a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. Congratulations on taking that first step today. For more information on how Victoria can help you turn your business idea into $1 million and to download Victoria's free ebook on passion-based business ideas, visit milliondollarpassion.com. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review the show on your favorite podcast player.